6 years ago, I became a mother. And I learned very quickly that what they say is true. Being a parent's kind of hard. In fact, the hardest thing, and this is also what they say, is the lack of sleep. Like, you're supposed to be raising a human being, and you're supposed to somehow accomplish this when you are walking through life like a zombie because you haven't slept in months, right? Now, for those of you who have never experienced the pleasure, my daughter Emma was born, like I said, almost 6 years ago, and then she's a little baby, and she expects to eat like all the time, and I'm supposed to do that. So I'm up every 2 to 3 hours every single night for like 11 months. Do you know what that's like? Just not getting more than 2 or 3 hours of sleep in a row? It sucks. And I was working full time, so it's not like I could make up with like a nap in the afternoon or something. No, I was just literally walking around bumping into walls. And then one morning, I woke up, and it was the morning, and I'd slept through the night, and I got up and I ran to Emma's room like, oh my God, what happened? And she was just sleeping. It was like this amazing miracle. And it's kind of like when you have a migraine that goes away, or if you've ever had chronic pain that goes away. It's like you don't realize how bad it is until it's gone. And then it's like, I can see color. I'm avoiding walls. I'm not getting to work and just laying my head down and crying every single day. This is what life is supposed to be like. And then it was like, I could get to the easy part of being a parent, like the part where you raise your child on sleep. It was wonderful. It was so wonderful. I mean, sleep became like my favorite thing to do, right? It was so wonderful that even though my husband and I desperately wanted a second child, when we came to that point where we were thinking about having that second kid, we were like, baby, sleep, baby. Now, the baby eventually won out, but it was close, man, I gotta tell you. And then, my daughter, she was like 2 years old, and the baby's in my belly, and it's gonna come out at some point. So we figured now would be a good time to adjust Emma to a bed, so we didn't have to do it when we had a newborn, and plus we needed the crib. So we took Emma out of this metal cage crib, and we put the crib in what would soon be the baby's room, and then we got Emma a nice little bed from IKEA. And Emma moved around a lot, even as a baby. I mean, even as a newborn, she was constantly banging into the sides of the crib. So we got her a bed rail to secure her in this new bed, right? And of course, we expected it not to go very well. I mean, kids do not handle change well. And so that first night, when Emma was sleeping in her bed, she realized that she had freedom, and she was going to use that freedom. And so, of course, in the middle of the night, she got out of bed because she could, and she got out of her room because she could, and then she came into our bed, and she wanted to sleep with us. And we're like, well, that's not the worst thing that could happen, only it turns out that she does not stop moving the entire time she's sleeping. So she's like somehow kicking me in the face. I don't know how this happened. And that happens for the next several nights before finally we're like, listen, Emma, you gotta stay in your bed because we need our sleep. And Emma's always been a quick learner, and I think the other thing she learned was not only that mommy and daddy no longer wanted her in their bed, but also that she really likes sleep too. She sleeps like her dad, right? She sleeps like the dead, and she needs that sleep. So it was only about a week of no sleep before she was adjusted, which was wonderful. But then, of course, the baby came. Now, Ethan, my second born, he was a big fat baby. And I gotta say, big fat babies are great for sleeping. It was only 6 months of torture before he was sleeping through the night, and that was wonderful, right? Because we had gotten used to our sleep, and then to have it taken away again, oh, that was awful. But then we were back. We're back to normal, easy raising children on sleep. And everything went well until the day Emma started kindergarten. This was this September. Emma started kindergarten, so it's a big change, and when there's a big change, kids freak out, and that's exactly what happened in our household. Because Emma started kindergarten, Ethan freaked out. He could not handle the change. And so starting that first week of kindergarten, every single night, Ethan started waking up at 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and now he was still in that big metal cage of a crib, and he's about 2.5 years old at this point, and so this is what happens every night. I, unlike my husband and Emma, I'm a light sleeper. I hear everything. So this is what I hear. And it's right around there that I open my eyes, and running up to my bed is a little boy, and he runs up to my bed and he goes, "It's wake up time?" And I say, "No, it is not wake up time. Let's go back to your room." And I take him back to his room and I put him in the crib. And that happens for 3 or 4 nights before the weekend. And by the weekend, I'm starting to realize that not only are we dealing with no sleep, but we're also dealing with a dangerous situation. Because this metal cage is like yay high, and my son is like yay high, and he is launching himself out of the crib every night. And I'm afraid that he's going to launch himself out and like smash his face into the dresser. So we decided we have to get him a bed. So we do. That weekend, we get him a bed, and now Emma's 5. She's been sleeping in a bed for years at this point, so we take the bed rail off of her bed and we put it on Ethan's brand new twin-size bed, and we put him in bed that night, pretty sure he's probably not going to stay, right? And he doesn't. Only here's the thing. This time, I get no warning. So I wake up when the breath hits my face. And there's a little boy right here who says, "Wake up time, Mom!" And then I go, "No!" and throw him across the room. He was fine. He survived. But this happens 2 or 3 times a night for weeks, right? And I tried everything to get this kid to stay in bed. We put him to bed an hour earlier. That's supposed to work. We got him a noisemaker. We got him one of those clocks that turns yellow when it's wake up time, so he would know, and he actually argued with me at like 3 a.m. He's like, "Make my clock yellow." And I'm like, "No, it doesn't work like that. You stay in bed." And so for like a month, I'm back to getting no sleep, and I'm working full time, and Emma's in kindergarten, and she's getting sleep because, you know, she sleeps like her father, like the dead, and my husband's getting sleep because he sleeps like the dead. And then finally one night, about a month and a half into this, I just lose it, right? I tuck Ethan into bed and I say, "Listen, you little boy, do not wake me up tonight. I need my sleep. Whatever happens, I don't care. Don't wake me up." And amazingly, he listened. He did not come into my room that night. He did not wake me up that night. He woke Emma up. Yes. So I wake up instead now to the sound of Emma screaming, "Ethan! No!" So I go in her room. He's on top of her in her bed. The light is on. I pick him up. I take him back to his bed. I throw him in it and I say, "Stay there." And I go back in her room and I turn off the light. And this continues for the next night. And then the next night is a Monday night, right? And I'm just like, I prepped him. I said, "Don't come out of your room. Stay in your room tonight." And we tuck everyone in, and I go to sleep. And 11 p.m., I get woken up to Emma screaming, "Ethan, get out!" So I go in her room, and I pick up Ethan, and I carry him back to his room, and I put him in his bed, and I say, "Don't wake Mommy up. Don't wake Daddy up. Don't wake Emma up. I don't care what happens. You stay in your room until your clock is yellow." And then I close the door, and I go back into Emma's room, and she's already back asleep, and I turn off the light, and just in case she can hear me, I say, "Emma, honey, I'm gonna lock your door so your brother can't come in, okay?" And I lock the door, and I pull it closed, and I go back to sleep. And at midnight, I get woken up to the sound of Emma screaming. Only she is not screaming, Ethan. She is just screaming. So I throw my blankets off, I run to her door, I go to open it, and it's locked. So I start banging on the door. I go, Emma, honey, Emma, open the door. Emma, honey, open the door. And she doesn't stop screaming. She's not opening the door. So I run to the top of the stairs because my husband has not come up yet. And I run to the top of the stairs and I yell at the top of my lungs, Bart, get up here! I don't care if I wake Ethan up at this point. And then I grab the spare key. Don't let the kids know, but we have a key to their room. And I go and I unlock the door and I open it to a scene from The Walking Dead. Emma is sitting on the floor next to her bed, covered in blood. It looks like she bit into someone's carotid artery and it's just sprayed blood all over her face. Her arms up to her elbows are covered in blood. Her nightgown, the blanket is spooled around her. It is covered in blood. And I recover from my shock and I do a quick forensics. And I realize she's fallen out of the bed and smashed her face against the bookshelf. And as blood is pouring out of her nose, she's wiping it off in every direction and just spreading it everywhere. And it is pouring out of her nose. So I grab a wad of tissues and I pick her up and I hold her and she is screaming. She will not stop screaming. And I start trying to staunch the flow of the blood, and Bart comes in and I say, get towels and get ice. And for the next hour, we clean this kid up, we get her calmed down, her screams change to cries and then to whimpers. We wipe the blood off of her face and her arms, we don't get it out of her hair. We change her nightgown and her sheets and everything, and we get her back into bed. And through the whole thing, she's just does not open her eyes. So I get Emma back into bed, and amazingly, also, Ethan hasn't come out of his room, so I don't know if he actually listened to me or if he really did sleep through that. And we go back to bed, and we sleep through the night. And in the morning, Emma stumbles downstairs like she always does, because she's always a little bit bleary-eyed in the morning. But she doesn't look too bad. Her nose is a little bit purple, but otherwise, you know, she's got the blood in her hair, but otherwise she's fine. And I say, hi, honey, how are you? And she just kind of goes, good. And I say, okay, do you remember what happened last night? And she goes, oh, Ethan woke me up. And that is all she remembers of that hour of carnage in her room. That night, she gets the bed rail back. And since then, she has slept through the night without doing herself any bodily harm in her sleep. I wish I could say that Ethan learned his lesson and started sleeping through the night, but he hasn't. Emma sleeps like the dead, her father sleeps like the dead. Ethan gets a nap during the day. So I am the only idiot in the house, still walking around like a zombie.